Hello. In today's video we're going to talk about one of my favorite amp manufacturers of the 60s that no one knows about, and that manufacturer is Gregory. Gregory amps were made in New Jersey. I think they were fairly close to where Danelectro made their amps. Not 100% sure on that, but I do know I have one catalog of theirs from 1968, and it has pretty much their full product line in it. Don't know why I'm using this little guy over here to simulate my voice, but here he is. Anyway, if you look in back in my videos, and I'll post a couple links up here to on the tops in the corners, where you can check out some other Gregory amps that I've had in the past and shown off. There's a reason I like them. They've got really cool crunch tones. I've had a couple of Mark X or Mark 10s. I've had a Mark 16. This is the first of this model that I've had, and it's a Mark 1. The Mark 1 is a series filament amp. What we're going to do, and this is, you're seeing it right now in as found condition. What we're going to do on this one is make it a little safer, put a 3-prong cord on it, and go through the schematic. See what improvements we can make to make it safer and maybe even sound a little bit better. We'll test out the tone before we make any changes, though, to make sure that's something we even want to do. But yeah, if this all sounds like something that would interest you, stick around and we'll get into it. Okay, here's the back of the amp with the back door off. The back door is just a piece of masonite with a couple holes, breathing holes in it, to dissipate some heat up in the top, which is kind of nice. A lot of these didn't even think to do that, so it's nice that they did that. A couple of holes at the bottom for stuffing your cable and I guess your guitar cords into the back of the amp. This one does have a nice schematic. It's always good to see that. It's also dated August the 18th, 1965. So that gives us a rough date for this amp. It's also dated on the speaker. The speaker code is 270, which is Quam. This is an AlNiCo speaker. It's also 6-inch. The year on this one is 1965, also the 20th week. The tubes appear to be all original. These are Sylvania. That one looks like a Hitachi. And I've actually seen Hitachi tubes in other Gregory amps that I've had in the past as well. I'm not sure what's up with that. I think this is the only manufacturer I've seen Hitachi labeled tubes in from the 1960s. They must have gotten a big deal on some closeouts or something, because I have seen a lot of these Hitachi labeled tubes in Gregory's. As you can see, it's all point to point. It's kind of hard to see the actual wiring, but we're going to take this out and take a look. But just preliminarily, this is just like other Gregory amps in the way that it's made. It's pretty thin chassis material. It looks like it's essentially just bent, thin gauge piece of metal. Everything's point to point wired. There is no power transformer in this. The schematic shows no power transformer, and I don't see one in here either, so I'm assuming there isn't. We do have an output transformer here. Let's get the chassis out and take a look at the guts. Okay, actually, before we take the amp chassis out, let's take a look at the not the schematic, excuse me. Let's take a look at the catalog. This is a catalog from 1968 showing a Mark II. Now, the Mark II appears to be the successor of the Mark I. This was at the bottom end of their student range. This one says a student's choice for pure, powerful sound with a full 5-watt peak music power, plus lightweight yet sturdy construction. And I'll go along with that. The construction does seem fairly sturdy. As a matter of fact, the amp is all plywood with the exception of, and you can see here, the amp is all plywood with the exception of the baffle, which for whatever reason, I don't know why they did this. I guess they thought, you know, we'll make the surrounding cabinet a little more sturdy, and we'll make it out of actual plywood, but then we'll come in here and make the baffle out of masonite and save a few pennies. Which, I mean, if you're going to make any part of the amp out of real wood, you'd think you'd almost want it to be the baffle, so that it would, you know, resonate the I mean, that's what the speaker's tied to. You want that part to resonate, but, you know, what do I know? Anyway, the Mark II is the closest thing that we have in this 1968 catalog. You can see it had a $45 list price, 6-inch speaker, 3 inputs, 3 tubes, volume control and a tone control, on-off switch, a power light. So yeah, everything really pretty much looks almost identical to the Mark I, with the exception of the cabinetry, cosmetics. So yeah, that is the Mark II, and I guess by 1968 the Mark I had been discontinued. So yeah, let's go ahead and take that chassis out and look at the gut. Okay, we've brought this thing up on a Variac to try to get a sense of what it's going to sound like, and a sense of what kind of problems might exist with it, and getting just a loud hum no matter which way we polarize. I don't know if you can hear that or not. Also a lot of cracks when we move the amp around, but that's telling me we're probably going to need caps, which I suspected anyway. But you can also see that whenever we move tubes around, we wiggle them a bit, we're getting a lot of noise, so we need to clean all the sockets, and you can actually even see the deposits and everything on all of the terminals. So yeah, everything really needs to be cleaned well. This might even be a bad tube, I'm not sure. So let's shut her down and put some new caps in it for sure, and also clean all these sockets, and then we'll come back and see where we are. Okay, let's look at what was done here real quickly. As you can see, we've put a 3-prong cable in. Here we're grounded now, so that this thing will be a lot safer. We've removed the cap can, which was coming out here, and put in some really over-spec'd capacitors. I've also come over here and biased the 12 AU6 pentode. It was going, the cathode was going directly to ground, so I've biased it here with a 46 ohm or 47 ohm resistor and a 25 microfarad cap, and that has boosted the bass response a little bit. This amp is really crunchy. I've tested it with a Stratocaster so far, and without this modification, it sounded great. Little bit on the tinny side, so just to beef it up slightly, I've added those. But that's the only modifications that have been made. This position called for a 60 microfarad cap. I didn't have a 60 on hand, but I've gone with a 47, which is doing the job just fine. But those are the caps, and again, they're way over spec. These are 450 volt caps. The ones that are in this cap cam were 150 volts, so I don't foresee that ever being an issue as far as the voltage handling. Also put a fuse in line here, a 1 amp fuse on the side with the switch, and move the switch. And let's see if we can show that quickly here. You can see the switch is down here on this lead, but instead of it being on the neutral, which is what it was over here, I've moved it over here in line with everything else, so that it's on the hot side. Also put the fuse on this side as well, so there's actually a switch and a fuse in these positions now. So that'll be a little safer overall, especially with the grounding as well. Here is the position where we came in here and put the resistor and capacitor to ground to bias this tube. If you wanted to do this same modification, if you have one of these, that's where you would put them. But yeah, let's check out some of the tones of the amp now. Okay, we're going to demonstrate this little Gregory Mark I now, but first I thought it might be instructive to compare it in size to the little Danelectro Cadet Model 123 that we have demonstrated before. Here we can see the little Danelectro. This is also a little 6-inch series filament amplifier combo, just like the Gregory Mark I. In fact, they're very similar in circuit to one another, as most of these little amps are. The more of these you get and kind of tear into, the more you realize how similar they are. The Gregory, though, does have a distinctive advantage in both volume and breakup, it seems. You can check out the Danelectro in a previous video. I made a demo of it as well, and it has great tone. But as far as overdrive, the Gregory has a slight amount of overdrive in excess to what the Danelectro seems to have. And just to demonstrate that, we're going to use a 1960s Kalamazoo. This is a KG-2A, I believe, and the A is for the tremolo. This one's been modified, and these are P90s that have been put in here, and I think these are Lindy Fralins. Let's take a listen to what the Gregory sounds like. I'm going to put the volume about halfway or so. The tone is interesting on the Gregory. If you look back at the schematic, I should talk about that a little bit when I'm talking about the schematic. But what the tone is actually in a strange place in the circuit. It's actually across the output transformer, and there is a cap that is engaged when you turn the knob. So it's interesting because there isn't much of a sweep. It just kind of either goes all on or on off at some point. So you kind of see what I mean here. There, it kind of goes all on. And there it is, kind of all on right there. But again, this is about halfway up on the volume, so let's check it out. all the way up. That's the Mark I. As you can tell, it's got really nice kind of gritty, grimy overdrive to it, and pretty darn loud for a 6-inch speaker. So yeah, that's a 1965 Gregory Mark I.